Welcome everyone! I am currently on vacation in Sanford. It's very windy around here with 100 kilometers per hour of wind speed, which is kinda sick. But what's even more important is that the KVR development challenge going on right now. I picked my top 5 plugins of this year's challenge, and in this video I'm going to show you what they are. But I want to highlight that you should go out there and pick your own top 5 before watching the rest of this video, because I don't want you to be biased, and if you did that already, then feel free to be my guest right now at the beach. Here's my pro-ass mobile setup with my Acer laptop, my headphones and some Bluetooth speakers. And I got Bitwig open with a project that contains most of the software that I'm going to show in this video. Here we have Octochord by Monsterdom. It is a compositional tool and it offers a lot of chord progressions. I think it's a great selection of chord progressions. They are well sorted and each chord progression comes with its own sound and own aesthetics. So in some sense it is similar to Scalar 2, but it offers less features for tweaking the chord progressions, but it's more playful, which can be nice because I'm not so much into the hyper professional looks. However, there has to be a reason why it's just on top 5 in my top 5 list. I think the biggest drawbacks of this plugin are that there is no MIDI drag and drop, so you have to use the sounds that come with the plugin. You cannot use your own sounds with it. You have to compose around the given chord progression with the other sounds that are in the project, so if something doesn't fit, you cannot tweak the chords that come out of this plugin, which is a shame. And yeah, just in general, you might want to have some optional tones added on top, and yeah, you cannot do that very well. So yeah, definitely a solid release, and because of that, it's part of my top 5. So here we have Synthcraft by Kirsty Rowland, an early development modular synth engine, kind of similar to Bitwig's Grid. Here I tried to make a Car Plus strong synth with it. I just let the MIDI trigger an ADSR envelope very shortly so that it creates something that sounds a little bit like an impulse with a noise fragment. The impulse goes into a feedback delay and the feedback delay goes into the output. Easy. But that's where it stops being easy. You can add fixed values, but you can only choose between 5 already predefined fixed values. You cannot define your own fixed values, which is kind of weird. And when you're making parameters, you cannot choose your own parameter range, which is also kind of weird. I just want to define the range, then let's go, like you would use Desmos or something. I think that's something that would highly improve the workflow of this thing. Also, sometimes when you try to drag a cable from one spot to another or something like that, it just doesn't let you do that, and that just feels a little bit sluggish. But yeah, it's early development, so let's not be too pedantic about it. One thing I would really advise to change about this is it can be really hard to figure out what the value actually is that goes out of a certain spot of the thing. Like for example, the MIDI output has a pitch slot. You can put that into an oscillator and it's perfectly interpreted. It will just play perfectly. But I tried to put the pitch into the delay input and then it just did some weird random stuff which I couldn't figure out. It would make much more sense in my opinion if there was a module that is just a value readout, like you put something in there and then it will tell you, yeah, this is 69 or so, and then you can just think like, okay, oh, okay, that must be a range between 0 and 128 and or something like that, and you could work with that. You can just then be like, okay, then maybe I divided by 128 and then I have normalized values or something like that. I see potential in this thing, even though it's not very usable yet, and that's why it is top 4. So here we have EQ Oder by Jade Hochschule. It seems to be a key track comp filter or something like that. It's not quite clear actually. because I feel like pop filters usually sound different, and I have no idea how they made it, but you can tweak the harmonics in many different ways, which is really fascinating. I love fascinating things like nerdy things that don't immediately make sense but have a few kind of macro-ish controls, and this is kind of just this thing. It has this fascination of algorithmic plugins. And even in nowadays times where AI plugins are booming, I think this is just one of these little gems that show you the power of algorithmic plugins. But you have to be a little bit careful with it because it can be dangerous. It is really easy to distort the sound. Sometimes you just tweak a parameter slightly and boom, the volume jumps up. I think this plugin could really need some gain compensation here and there, if possible. You know, it's not entirely clear if it's possible from the way it's set up in terms of DSP. But there are a lot of things in it that could be improved as well objectively. For example, that there is no parameter smoothing, which causes discontinuities at modulation, which is just a really unpleasant experience. And yeah, there are also discontinuities on note changes sometimes, but it's still cool, and I think you can get some fascinating sounds from it that you can't get from other plugins that are out there so far, which is always something that I really value a lot, which is why this is top 3. Here we have Solaris by Adam Sabo. I personally knew Adam Sabo for his plugin JP6K, which is an emulation of the iconic JP8000 keyboard, which is known for the way it shaped the history of supersaws in electronic music. And I think his adaptation of this synthesizer is just nailed so perfectly. So I also went into the test of Solaris with my hopes up very high, and since you can see this is top 2, it really lives up to my expectations. It is a reverb with a formant filter and 2 pitch shifters in the feedback part. In some sense, it is similar to my plugin Pitch Glitcher, which is also a pitch shifter that has a feedback path, and you can sometimes hear that it also has this tremolo-y character, and the fluctuations make it sound less solid and give it more of a relaxed sensation. It is a shimmer reverb with a glossy tone, and you can make spectacular soundscapes with it. In some way, it is similar to Dawson's shimmer reverb, by the way. I think it doesn't work always. Like when you try it the first time, it makes you feel like you can use it on everything, but then I kind of struggled to use it on everything immediately. But I found some stuff where it worked really well, and when you compare it to different reverbs, it is just so different that it has its own place, and that makes it unique and useful. Here's my top 1, Wavebreaker by Press Play. It's a true peak limiter and its squashes sound really nice. The visuals are just on point, UI UX perfect, with a draggable threshold and stuff. It has nice macro controls, preserve, saturate, really easy to use. And there are even more models to come in the future, which is nice. I have one little point of critique. The graphic settings are only saved per instance, and I would like them to be saved for every plugin in the future, so I can just set my perfect bounce and color scheme, and then it will just be like that forever. A solid release, and it perfectly fits into my current obsession with clippers. Nice. Alright everyone, the KVR Developer Challenge. Let me know what you think about all these kind of things. What is your opinion on the KVR Developer Challenge in general? What is your top 5? What is your opinion on my top 5? Like, would you completely disagree with my top 5, or do you agree with some things? Have you tried the plugins? Were you surprised about certain decisions or something like that? What kind of plugin would you release if you were a developer, if you are not yet a developer, if you partook in the KVR Developer Challenge? I'm running out of potential questions, but maybe you came up with your own and you can drop them in the comments. And now I will maybe be able to enjoy the rest of my vacation without getting too obsessed with the things that I do every day anyway. But probably not.